Welcome to Paranormal Almanac with your host, Kurt Sandvik. Hey, howdy, hi. That's right. I'm your host, Kurt Sandvik, and on this week's edition of Paranormal Almanac, let's talk about more random crap to talk about with family during the holidays. You'll see what I mean if you haven't listened to this episode before. This is a sequel episode. You'll get it. Don't worry. It's not that hard. But first, as always, we've got Thanksgiving shout-outs. Worst soundboard I've found yet. Shout-outs going out to the patrons. That's right. Happy Thanksgiving to all of the patrons that are celebrating Thanksgiving. Happy holidays to all those that aren't celebrating Thanksgiving and are listening to this at a later date. Or if you're listening to this right now, happy being my neighbor living in this apartment complex, because I don't know how else you're listening to this live. But shout-outs going out to Flory, Naughty Innuendo, Jen, Danny Darkcypher from Australia. How you doing, mate? How's it going? Seriously, though. How are you? I hope you're doing good. Sarah Jane, howdy, hi. Angie, Lisa Cervantes, Curious Hedgehog, best kind of hedgehog. Diana, Mr. J, George, Casey the Pitbull. Yes. We got a Deb B, we got Corey, we got a GC, we got a Lionel, we got a Tracy. Hey, howdy, hi. I've got a lot of messages to catch up on. I apologize. We got a Newt MacGyver on it. B Melty, Avril, Loch Ness, not a monster. Stacy Leviathan, Stiggian, hey, howdy, hi. Chani the Pommy, JT, Doogie Whore, Mike G, Tracy B, Jeff, Richard, Alec, Karen, Duran, Lori, Rebecca, and Stephen Scher, hey, howdy, hi. Jane Ann, Jennifer, Heather G, your friendly neighborhood skinwalker. Zuzus, what's it? Nico Sharon the Mouse, hey, howdy, hi. Andrew, Mark, and Tina, Tortuga, Alabama White Thing. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's try it. I think it's this one. Alabama White Thing. Nah, it didn't work. I was trying to do I thought it would be a good version of Turkey in the Straw, but a terrible version of Turkey in the Straw. Sorry, Alabama White Thing. That wasn't cool at all. Andy, I tried, though. I tried to, spice yours up for you there. Virginia Mailman. Tony, the Magician. Poof. Vicky, Crow, Isabel, Jen, Amber, Tracy, Sandy, Paige, Cow, Scott, Andrea, Melody, Vanessa. If I Was the Devil. Elizabeth, Sherry, hey, howdy, hi. Art Muffin, Tim, East Clintwood, Kenneth, Alexandra, Zozo the Demon. Hayden, Cindy, Ashley, Robin, Lauren, Russell, Isabel, Audra, Dorian, Cindy, Jerry, Jeff T, Lawrence, the Lawrence Strawn. Hey, howdy, hi. I got to text you back. I got to text you anyway. Veronica, Autumn, Carolyn, Nashi, Todd, Jamie, and Elijah Hendrickson, Dan, Laura Pitts, and the one, the only, the best, the Gamer Fan. That's right, with two special shout-outs, as always, to my boy Stitch and to Joe Teague. And my girl Rum just hopped up on my lap. Hi, sweetheart. How are you? I know this isn't the normal time we do a podcast episode. I usually do it much later in the afternoon, but it's a little bit too hot to go for a walk, so I'm going to do an episode instead, okay? I love you. You can wait. All right. So, yeah, this episode, I'm just going to give you a little briefer now before Paranormal Almanac, or Paranormal News, that is. This episode, I'm trying to figure out a fun way for you guys to celebrate Thanksgiving. Again, if you're celebrating. If not, just eat a lot of food on Thanksgiving on Thursday. You don't have to celebrate Thanksgiving. I know the origins of Thanksgiving are horrible, but you can just eat a lot of food. That's the good part about this holiday. But even if you're not in America, anywhere in the world, just eat a lot of food on Thursday. But in America, we have to go and eat with family, which could be good and could be bad. I mean, there's the good and the bads that go with both of those. So that's what this episode is going to help prepare you for. Is it very paranormal? Not really. I'm telling you that now in case you're like, well, I only like the really paranormal ones. Okay, this isn't that paranormal. There's a couple of paranormal-y things in here, but this isn't like a full, hardcore, investigative, paranormal almanac type episode. So if that's what you're sitting down for, you're not going to get it, but I still think you should listen. But we are going to have a very short and sweet paranormal news. There's something in here. What was that? It's time for paranormal news. See, I told you it was going to be paranormal news. Again, this is going to be a very short and sweet paranormal news because, well, it's a short holiday week for me, and I want to get this episode out to all of you so that you can enjoy it before the holiday or on the holiday. Also, once it's done, I can then do absolutely nothing with rum. I got tomorrow after work, and then that's it. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I want to do nothing but just relax with my dog in my, thankfully, it's not, knock on wood, it's not raining, but in my leaked apartment. My apartment started leaking because of the rains, which was fun. That was great. That's what I wanted. I was really hoping to have like an indoor shower in my bedroom, and I got one. So that was always fun. Yeah, that made for a fun week. So I had to pull everything off of the balcony because there's a patio, not a balcony. There's a patio basically above my bedroom. I had to pull everything off the patio, which is where Rum plays, runs around and plays. And sadly, she can't be playing out in the patio right now until they fix the damn leak. But sadly, but anyhow, so here we go. Don't worry. I'm going to be talking about age of disclosure on the next episode a lot. I highly recommend it. I was trying to figure out how to do a watch-along, or if I should do a watch-along, I'll put it that way. And I started to try and do one while I was watching Age of Disclosure the other day and decided, no, all it would do is make people go, Kurt, shut up, I want to hear the good stuff, because it's mostly good stuff. It really is a fantastic, hopefully a little bit of disclosure, move us a step closer disclosure type of a documentary. I mean, it really is fantastically done. So don't be surprised. I'm going to do it. This first story in Paranormal News is connected to Age of Disclosure, but I'm going to do a full recap of Age of Disclosure next week. So if you can't watch it, that's why. Or you can listen to me, and I'll tell you all the good stuff. All righty, the first story in Paranormal News. Hi, Rum, come on up here. Ah, beautiful. The first story in Paranormal News. President George H.W. Bush knew of 1964 alien contact with humans in New Mexico. That's right. The new documentary, Age of Disclosure, has this groundbreaking story in it, and it is that Eric Davis, an astrophysicist who was scientific advisor on the since disbanded ATIP, basically, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, which was created in Congress in 2007, claimed that Bush confirmed to him in a private conversation details of contact between the military and an alien creature at Holloman Air Force Base in Otero County. I actually talked about this one on an episode a long-ass time ago, but it's nice to know that there's confirmation from somebody else who's, was working in the government. Bush told him that 3 spaceships were seen approaching the base, and that an interstellar being emerged from one ship and had a face-to-face encounter with military and CIA officials. Davis said during an interview in Age of Disclosure that, let's get to the good stuff. One of them landed on the tarmac, and a non-human entity deboarded the craft that landed and interacted with uniformed Air Force and civilian CIA personnel. He says that when Bush asked for more detail, when Bush asked for more details, he was told that he did not have a need to know. Oh, I get what he's saying. Like when Bush wanted to have more details about the encounter. I get it. Bush, a former decorated naval aviator and director of the CIA, was allegedly informed of the encounter after his term as president. who said the two spoke in a series of conversations in 2003. Davis didn't describe the alien craft or the aliens or discussed any material evidence for the claims. Then it goes into the documentary. Again, we'll be talking about that. Let me skip ahead. Hal Puthoff, a former ATIP member, quantum physicist, and longtime disclosure advocate, claimed that there were several types of ETs. The bodies recovered are not all the same. He said that he declined to detail them. Whoever it is, they're here, and they've been operating here for a very long time. Others interviewed detailed injuries sustained by military personnel who claimed to have come into contact with UAPs, including Gary Nolan, an immunologist and cancer researcher at Stanford University's School of Medicine. He evaluated several military personnel who were brought to him by representatives of the CIA and an unnamed aerospace company. It's insanely cool. Age of Disclosure does go into all of this. It's nice to finally get confirmation that there is more than just one alien species. As you all know, if you've listened to this episode or this podcast before, you got your grays, you got your mantids, you got your, hi, Rum, I love you too. There's like, thank you, Rum, I love you too. There's like 6 different types of alien beings out there. There's the, let's see, what other types of alien beings are out there? Hold on, I'm going to Google it real quick so I don't skip any. You got your grays, you got your mantids. I already said those 2. Where's some more? Come on. Here we are. Your Nordics, the humanoids with the stereotypical Nordic features, the tall blonde hair, blue eyes. You've got your, well, I wouldn't include reptilians or reptiloids. Yeah, there's a good one. Hi, Rum. That's my favorite girl in the whole wide world. Yes, I know. I love you too. But I got to do an episode right now. Yes. I'll pet you later. So yeah, there's a variety of different aliens we've talked about on previous episodes. But again, it's nice to get this kind of corroboration from people that are actually worked or are working in the government. That we're not crazy, that UFOs are visiting Earth, and a variety of UFOs and a variety of different aliens are visiting Earth. It is very cool to finally have it be done on something that this documentary is done very professionally, if you know what I mean. I'm trying to think of like the words for it. Like it's not an In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy. This is a hard-hitting, fact-based documentary with military personnel, governmental personnel from around the world that are talking, that just happen to be talking about UFOs and aliens. And it's nice that to put some kind of credence and validation to something that I believe my entire life, but it's just factual. You can no longer go out there and say, I don't know if I believe in aliens. The proof has already been out there. People in Congress or in front of Congress at congressional hearings have already stated, yes, the U.S. is in control or has ownership of non-terrestrial vehicles, meaning UFOs and UAPs, and alien entities, actual biological entities, meaning aliens. It's no longer a question of if you want to believe it or not. The facts are there. And this documentary really brings it home. All right, I talked about it more than I said I was going to. Up next in paranormal news, but non-news. This has been such a non-news kind of a thing, but something I'll talk about every time they have a news story about her. The National Archives releases Earhart digital records. That's right. Thousands of pages, mostly about Amelia Earhart, have been released. Now here's the problem. It's about 4,600 pages of records. Here's the problem. These documents, like thousands of these documents, were already available. I've read all of these. I've been trying to find something new and exciting about Amelia Earhart when they announced, like, hey, we're going to release everything that we have about Amelia Earhart. I didn't expect a smoking gun to say, Oh, and by the way, yep, she crashed on Nikumaruru. We knew it. For whatever reason, we didn't go and get her. Nothing like that. There are the radio transmissions that people heard, that people reported to the government saying, hey, we hear these weird Mayday calls. We think it's her, and it's getting fainter and fainter. Nope, like, it's none of the good stuff. It's none of the stuff that is like the smoking gun that puts a fine point on it. Her plane will be found on Nikumaruru. I've said it for years now. It's just a matter of time before they find her plane. I think her body was already found. Her skeleton, I should say, their remains were already found and lost. And I think the rest of the remains were all taken away by those coconut crabs. But U.S. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard said in a statement that the release marked a, quote, first step with additional documents to be posted on a rolling basis. Much of the material covers the Navy and Coast Guard joint search that followed Earhart and navigator Fred Noonan's final radio transmissions as they neared Howland Island on July 2nd, 1937. Alongside official reports are maps, telegrams, and letters from members of the public. These range from assertions that Earhart was buried overseas to one claiming insights from mental telepathy. While Earhart's fate remains an unsolved mystery, researchers have continued to investigate evidence. One such investigation, led by the researchers from Purdue University, plans to embark on an expedition next year to investigate what they believe may be the remains of Earhart's craft. Yeah, and it will be. If they are searching at Nikumaruru, they're going to find it. They just have to find it, but it's right there. And I'll report about that when they do. But, yeah, unfortunately, nothing that they released was anything that I haven't seen before. And I was really hoping for something, anything new. It's a lot like the last JFK file dumps. Stuff that was already been out there. If you're really into that kind of a topic, either Earhart or JFK, it's available online. But, again, I guess it's nice it was confirmation. All righty, that about does it for paranormal news. See, I told you it was going to be quick. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. Well, that was the wrong one. It's supposed to be this sound effect. That's all right. It doesn't matter. We are back. Okay, like I said, since this episode did so well last year, and people actually asked me, hey, are you going to do it again this year? Well, the answer is yes. I'm doing it for you right now. You're listening to it right now. Here is the sequel to things to talk about during Thanksgiving this week or holiday, whatever holiday that's coming up. Sure, you could talk about politics or climate change, but you know that's going to cause a food fight. So let's get some talking points ready that no one will expect, for one, and probably won't cause you to get kicked out before the pumpkin pie. That's the important thing. Like I said, it's great that we get together with family during the holidays. But, going in, there's tension running high. Tension has been very high in America, and I'll just guess around the world lately anyway. So here's my hope to kind of bring down that tension. Anytime you think your crazy uncle or your dad or your mom or whomever, your brother, are going to go off the rails and say something that is horrifically ignorant or political, you will have these ready to go. Just like a quick shot, like, oh, I got this one. Boop, I got this one. But here's my tip. Tip number one is don't just rattle off all the things I'm about to tell you, one after another. You have to pace yourself, people. Give a few, then, talk about how grandma was probably a little racist or football or something, and then sprinkle in a few more throughout dinner. Then, talk about how weird it is now that it's warm at Halloween nowadays and how you used to have to wear a coat over your costume or something, and then sprinkle in a few more of these. You don't want to just bombard them with all of these weird random facts, and they are facts, I will tell you straight up. There's a couple at the beginning that are weird conspiracies, but the rest are actual facts, and I double-checked them. I swear I did. I do my due diligence for this podcast. But you want to sprinkle in these facts, but you can't do it all at once or you'll look insane. And that's just as bad as talking about politics right now. You want to just a little sprinkle, make them last is what I'm saying. Just, little like, bam, here's a fact for you that makes and you can't just be like, boom, here's a fact for you. You got to, naturally bring them up or not naturally bring them, but just bring them up in a natural way so that people are like, what? Oh, all right. And then they focus on that for a little bit, even if it's just to say how crazy you sound. It gets that tension, releasing the tension during the holidays. That's what this episode's all about. I am betting there is at least one talking point on this episode for everyone listening, and hopefully a lot more because there's a ton of them on here, but at least one that'll make you go, you know what? I could bring that up. I don't know how I would weave that, I don't know how I could connect the dots to something my family's saying, but I could bring up this little fact. And maybe it will start a conversation in a weird, different, political kind of way. I don't know. Let's see. But first up, I have to throw in conspiracy theories that are not political for these episodes, which, again, are getting harder and harder to find. Oh, the shitty rabbit holes Kurt had to go through. But I did weed through them to find something that doesn't make me sad and, want to give up. Fun fact, doom scrolling on Facebook and Instagram is bad, but doom scrolling on Reddit, holy shit, wow, is that next level bad. That is insanity bad. So I could fill an entire episode with just like CERN conspiracy theories, and trust me, I doom scrolled through a ton of them. I went down that rabbit hole on not just Reddit, but on a ton of social media, including 4chan, for God's sakes, because I was trying to find, again, I wanted to find new conspiracy theories that are fun, but I went down the CERN conspiracy theories. Most are disproven or unprovable, so whatever, that's out of the way. But here's your one and only internet CERN conspiracy theory that is not a fact. I know I said a minute ago everything's going to be on here a fact, but I will tell you when it's not a fact. This one and a couple things right after this, not fact. There are people online who believe that when CERN discovered the Higgs boson particle in 2012, that they inadvertently created a black hole. Not kicked us into a parallel universe, but created a black hole, and Earth was sucked into it. And there is a kernel of truth to this, very small kernel of truth to this. And that was a big fear before they actually turned CERN on, the Hadron Collider on, was that they might create a black hole and it would envelop Earth and kill us all. So this theory kind of steps off on that, saying they did create a black hole, Earth was sucked into it, and these people think that the world ended in 2012 when they turned it on, but we haven't realized it yet. That's right. All the weird parallel universes are just them folding in on us as we travel through the black hole. Same for the Mandela effects and other stuff. It's just us trapped in a black hole and slowly dying as it crushes us. And I gotta say, I saw the movie The Black Hole. I remember at the end of it, it looked like hell. And, well, yeah, all right, I can kind of see this one. Okay, yep, we're in a black hole. But again, with every one of these glitch in the matrix or we're in a simulation kind of a thing, cool. We are now in a black hole. Enjoy the fact that you have to keep working while we plummet through the worst of humanity in a black hole. I kind of dug this one, though, because there is no way to disprove that we didn't get sucked into a black hole. Maybe this is what a black hole looks like. It's just us going about our daily lives, but it's mutating everything around us, which would explain parallel universes and ghosts and definitely explain the Mandela effect and would explain why the world seems to have gone all kinds of wonky since at least 2012. But, I mean, I would have guessed since 2016, but I guess maybe it took a minute for us to really enter the black hole. There are people out there that actually think that is why we're seeing so many northern lights now. That the aurora borealises are just, shit whipping by us as we plummet in through this black hole. But to where? What's on the other side of the black hole? Again, I saw the movie. It didn't really help me that much. It looked like hell. Let's find out together, shall we? All right, I thought that was a fun one that I couldn't disprove. But, all right, sure. All right. I don't know I don't know what to do this. So, with that one, though, I want to kind of go through to another old paranormal news story. It is, if it loads, is immortality possible? A Dyson sphere could bring humans back from the dead, researchers say. The cosmic megastructure may be the key to resurrection and mortality. Russian researchers have outlined several ways that technological resurrection may be possible in the future, including a method called digital immortality or restoration based on recordings. In this method, a superintelligent AI uses the cosmic Dyson sphere megastructure to harness computing energy from the sun. Now, we can't build a Dyson sphere yet, but we have found them supposedly out in the far reaches of the universe. The James Webb Telescope and whatever the telescope was before that thinks we found Dyson spheres. So this is saying perhaps the reason to make a Dyson sphere, besides getting, limitless energy, is to bring people back from the dead. And I thought that one was weird, but it's actually been brought up in the news recently that they think that AI will bring people back from the dead. There will be so much, not really bring people back from the dead, but will allow people to live on as an Alexa, kind of, basically. So basically what they think is that whole thing about with 10,000 hours of recording, AI can create a virtual you that is indistinguishable from the real you. And that the next step for AI will be to bring back loved ones. So instead of, talking to an Alexa, you'd be talking to your lost loved one, your dead loved one, and they would react exactly like they did when they were alive. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't want you guys to do that with my voice. I know that there is enough material out there from Paranormal Almanac alone that AI can already create a perfect sounding Kurt, but I don't think it can. I think it wouldn't mispronounce names of places and dates and it wouldn't be Kurt, is what I'm saying. It'd be a more professional Kurt if you like that. There you go. Create your own Kurts. But again, please don't have digital AI Kurt saying a lot of weird shit. But there are a lot of conspiracy theories out there that we've already reached that point, and that the government has already reached that point, and that you may already be talking to people that are AI, perfect AI, not just those idiots like you that you yell at when you're trying to talk to like Amazon, support or whatever. Not those kind of bad AIs that, I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Did you want to say monkey butt? No, I didn't say monkey butt. I said, where is my product at? Like that, those kind of idiots. But there is actual perfect human AIs based on real humans that are already out there and that the military has been using for quite a while. There was a little rabbit hole that I went down for just a little bit. This is another one of those conspiracies that's not proven. This is not a fact. There's a rabbit hole, grain of salt time. There's a rabbit hole about people that have interacted with holographic digital people on military bases as far back as 1996. And they said that they were a perfect human, like interacting exactly like they would a real human, But it turns out they were AI. So if the government has really had this kind of AI potential since 1996, they've most 100% definitely perfected it by now. And this consumer AI that we're seeing, that you and I are seeing nowadays, is actually years behind what the government has had. And again, can't prove it, wouldn't be surprised. All righty. The next conspiracy theory that can't be proven, but can't be disproven either. Basically, there are a ton of Titanic theories out there. That a boiler was burning that like out of control that caused the metal to be brittle where the iceberg hit it. That's a good rabbit hole to go down if you haven't gone down it. It was just talked about on a TV show the other day, that one of these reality shows, and I can't remember which one. But that is a big theory out there, that the reason that the iceberg ripped through the hull so easily was that one of the boilers had caught on fire, or there was a fire down below in the Titanic, and they didn't want to postpone the launching because it was the biggest ship ever, so they just launched it with this fire, and that the metal on that side was brittle, and it just happened to be where the iceberg hit. It can't be disproven. You know, how are you going to disprove that? But there's also one where the ship wasn't even the Titanic. It was the sister ship, the Olympic, I think it was. And it was part of an insurance fraud scheme. But this one, well, that one, actually, the insurance fraud scheme, that was easily debunked. There is no real deep conspiracy theory. If you go down that rabbit hole deep enough, the ships were different enough that all the photos of the Titanic would have been noticeably not the Titanic. But here's one, a newish conspiracy theory about the Titanic that I didn't know about. A study recently discovered that the Northern Hemisphere was experiencing a moderate to severe magnetic storm on the night of the Titanic's collision. Similar solar flares are known to cause power outages on Earth and could have affected the ship's radar and radio rescue signal, which caused chaos. They're trying to keep the ship away from icebergs, caused that kind of chaos. Held up help to rescue its passengers, it caused that kind of chaos. So there is this theory based on kind of scientific studies that said a lot of the stuff that happened to the Titanic only happened because of a moderate to severe magnetic storm from the sun. I thought that was very interesting. I'd not heard that one. Let's keep it historical for a minute. This one I don't believe, but it's out there, so I'm going to pass this conspiracy theory along to you. Some believe that Queen Elizabeth I died as a child, and to prevent the end of the royal line, she was replaced with a young boy. This theory is said to explain why the ruler remained chaste throughout her reign. Sure. I don't know. I don't believe that one at all. I think someone would notice that up close the queen really needs to shave, but, you know, what do I know? Let's get more modern with this next one. And it actually has some evidence to support it. It's called the dead internet theory. It first showed up in 2021, when a user started a thread called Dead Internet Theory. Most of the internet is fake. And it cited posts from major online discussion forums like 4chan, and the theory claimed that non-human bots are responsible for almost all activity and content creation on social media. Basically, it's that AI and chatbots automatically churn out social media posts designed to farm clicks, comments, likes, arguments on platforms like, you know, Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and all that. They do this because more engagement leads to more advertising dollars. But the accounts responding to those automatic posts are also bots and AI agents. That's right. The conspiracy claims everything is happening between machines. No humans needed. If you go deeper down this rabbit hole, some dead internet theory people argue that government organizations use these bots to manipulate human opinions. Kurt here. Shocker. Oh no. Again, there is a kernel of truth to this one. Bots account for around half of all internet traffic, research suggests. That said, there are definitely humans on the internet, though. But those idiots that you and I are arguing with on Facebook and TikTok, well, yeah, there really is a good chance they're bots designed to keep us arguing online. Twitter just had a thing come out last week that got immediately turned off again, where it showed where people were, actually originating from. And all of these accounts, I'm not going to get political, but all these political accounts that are supposed to be set up in America, good old Americans telling us about the American way, were actually from Nigeria and all these Russia, China, Japan, all these other India, all these other countries. And they were just churning out content like crazy to keep us infighting and to keep us, questioning everything. And it's very effective. So, yeah, if you didn't know about the dead internet theory, it's kind of real. I don't think we're at the time yet where every post that I see on Facebook is fake, is not a real human. But I also think that most of these idiots that I argue with on Facebook probably aren't real. And it's kind of a relief, really. Because now I just go, like, if I want to argue with somebody, like, who's saying something dumb about, like, on the day that George Harrison died, he wrote a song that has his son crying, and that song's never been released. No, he didn't. He didn't release a song. He didn't write a song on the day he died. He was too weak. It's fake bullshit. And then my blood starts to boil, and I get all angry and want to be like, that's not true. None of this is true. It's proven that the last song he wrote was weeks before. Now I go, oh, it's just a bot trying to get me to argue for whatever. They want the clicks. They want the interaction. So I just go, nope, not going to do it. Now, sometimes I'll still argue with the bot person. I don't care. But now I can actually kind of relax a little bit and cool off on the social media. And it's actually very helpful if you actually think about it. Sure, I don't think that all of the posts that my mom is doing on Facebook isn't really my mom. I've talked to her about them. That's my mom. Or is it AI? Now, see, I'm going down a different rabbit hole. Is my mom really AI and also posting on Facebook? See, I don't know. I don't have all the answers. But don't go down that rabbit hole. You'll make yourself crazy. But next up, I wanted to talk about some new conspiracies. Conspiracy theories that are probably not true. But they're the fun, innocent, non-political ones that if you share will probably make your family wonder what drugs you're on at Thanksgiving dinner. So here's a few of them. There's only a couple. This first one says, mine is much lower stakes than a lot of these weird conspiracy theories. But here it is. No matter what venue, what city, and what genre of music or any other variable, at any concert you attend, someone will be wearing a Motorhead shirt and someone will be wearing a Johnny Cash shirt. Here's my theory. If you only have two people show up to a show, one of those two will have on a Johnny Cash shirt, the other will have a Motorhead shirt. If one dude shows up, he'll be on a Johnny Cash t-shirt and a Motorhead hoodie. And I liked this one. And I actually put it to the test last night. I went out, or is it 2 nights ago? 2 nights ago, I went out to a show at a very small venue, only 100 people. And I was like, oh, I cannot wait to look down the line and see if I can find. I didn't find any Motorhead, but there was a guy in a Johnny Cash t-shirt. And I was like, holy shit, this theory might be true. So every concert I go to from here on out, I'm going to be checking for Motorhead shirts and Johnny Cash shirts. Yeah. See? Fun, harmless conspiracy theory. Why? Doesn't say, and it doesn't matter either. Next one says, washing machines and dryers cause localized disruption in space-time through the effects of spinning metal drums in electromagnetic field motors and heat. Therefore, this theory says, we shouldn't ask, where are my socks, but rather, when are my socks? That's the kind of conspiracy theory I can get behind. That's the kind of conspiracy theory that I want to go down a rabbit hole on. Because they're right. The Madman Markham on Art Bell Time Machine was just that. Spinning metal drums in an electromagnetic field that he got, put enough electricity into it, made an electromagnetic motor that caused a rip in the space-time continuum. Maybe washing machines and dryers are just smaller versions of this. I like that kind of a conspiracy theory. This next one, another one I want to test, says there is no difference between Coke made with cane sugar versus Coca-Cola made with corn syrup. It is a combination of the glass bottle and the placebo effect. If you did a taste test and controlled all other variables, the average person could not find a difference. Like I said, I want to test this one, but I did fail the Pepsi challenge back in the day, so what do I know? I'm already out. I can already tell you that I'm failing at it. But again, a harmless one that I kind of liked. I'm kind of behind that one. I like it. Up next, here is a useless fact that should stop people arguing around the table about politics for at least a second. It's not going to be a long conversation, but it'll make them stop and go, the fuck did you say? What are you talking about? So use this one if you want that kind of reaction. It's a very simple conspiracy theory without any explanation. Did anyone else notice that Marissa Tomei is an anagram of "It's a me, Mario"? What does it mean? Yeah, what does it? Ask your weird uncle that and tell me what he says. If you use that one at the Thanksgiving table, tell me what reaction you got from that. If in the middle of a heated argument or dead silence at the Thanksgiving table, if you go, hey, did anybody else notice that Marissa Tomei is an anagram of "It's a me, Mario"? I want to know what kind of reaction you get to that. So I like that one. Alrighty, next up. Fun ones. TV and movie fun facts that, again, I double-checked. They're real. If this doesn't calm the family down, nothing will. I recommend the classic opener of, hey, did you know? And then pick a few of these. Again, sprinkle them out throughout the whole dinner. You don't want to just bombard people with them. They're not going to remember them. Which brings me up to this next part of the conversation for this episode. You got to write a couple of these down. You're going to forget them. I guarantee you've already forgotten a couple of the stupid things I've said. Probably not the Marissa Tomei, "It's a me, Mario," but a couple of the stupid things I've already said. So you need some talking points. Make a note on your phone or text yourself or something. However you can do it, where you can look down at your phone and scroll through and go, oh, that's a good one. I'm going to use this one. You got to be proactive here. You got to do a little homework. Did you know the flag in the opening of Gilligan's Island on the harbor, when the minnow is leaving the harbor at the beginning of Gilligan's Island, it's actually from an unaired pilot of Gilligan's Island where half the cast is different. I didn't know that, but that's not even the one I'm going to get to. The flag in the opening at the harbor is actually at half-mast, and that's because of JFK's assassination. Yep, it's true. When they were filming this part of the minnow going out to sea from the harbor, the flag is actually at half-mast because Kennedy had just been killed, and, it was a real harbor. They didn't think anything of it. So you can actually see a flag at half-mast from Kennedy's assassination in Gilligan's Island. See, it's worth waiting the 44 minutes it took me to get to these ones. And speaking of Gilligan's Island, how about these? Do you know the real name of the skipper on Gilligan's Island? Well, his not the actor, I don't care about that. The character, the skipper, has a real name on Gilligan's Island. His real name was Jonas Grumby. That's right, the skipper's real name, Jonas Grumby. The professor on Gilligan's Island, well, his real name is Roy Hinckley. Lovey Howell, the millionaire's wife, well, her full name is Eunice Lovey Wentworth Howell. That's right, you get her maiden name even. What about Gilligan? Well, his first name was actually Willie. That's right, his name was Willie Gilligan. Come on, I have to have surprised at least one person with one of those. How about this? Barbie. Mattel revealed not only is that a nickname, but she actually has an official real name. And that real name is Barbara Millicent Roberts. Okay, what about Ken? Yep, I got his full name too. Ken Carson. All right, here's one that's timely. Y'all went out and saw Wicked, whatever the hell, Good and Evil, whatever it's called, this weekend. Well, you won't find this in the movie. But the Wizard of Oz, the wizard has a real name. That's right, in L. Frank Baum's 1908 book, Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, there is a line that says, "My father, who was a politician, named me Oscar Zoroaster Fadrick Isaac Norman Henkel Emmanuel Ambrose Diggs. When I grew up, I just called myself OZ because the other initials were Pinhead, and that spelled Pinhead, which was a reflection on my intelligence." How about that? There you go. I already forgot most of it, but Wizard of Oz, OZ, was from his first two parts of his name, Oscar Zoroaster. That's cool. I don't care who you are. That's good, fun facts. How about this one? Pillsbury Doughboy. You know, the little kind of a guy that everybody decides to poke for whatever reason. Well, he has a real name, and it's a real name that I already knew, but I didn't know the rest of this. His real name is Poppin' Fresh. Yep, I knew that one, but I didn't know this part. He also has a wife, Poppy Fresh, and they have two kids named Popper and Bun Bun. What? When is that ever shown in any commercial ever? Are you telling me that the Pillsbury Doughboy is fucking and procreating? Why is that not talked about more? Stop poking the guy. He's poking her. He's poking Poppy, and they already have two kids, Popper and Bun Bun. Why? Why, Pillsbury? I don't need to know that. I just want to look at your stupid mascot and go, yeah, I kind of should buy some Pillsbury dough. I kind of like those, and then make them. I don't need to think about your mascots fucking. That's not, come on. Speaking of mascots, how about Captain Crunch? How about this one? His real name? Horatio Magellan Crunch. Want more info on him? Oh, I got it. He was born on Crunch Island in the Sea of Milk. Also, Kurt here, he's not really a captain. I don't know if you guys know that one. That's an old conspiracy theory. Not even conspiracy theory. It's an old fact, an old trivia piece. He only has 3 stripes on his uniform. A Navy captain has 4, so he's not really a captain. So what the hell is he? Well, I don't know, but his name is Horatio Magellan Crunch. How about the Michelin Man? That big white, kind of looks like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, but he's for tires. His real name is Bibendum, or Bib for short. His old catchphrase, Nunc est bibendum, which is Latin for now for drinking. He would proceed to prove his toughness by downing a goblet of broken glass and nails in old commercials. What the fuck is happening? I get it, he's a tire, so broken glass and tires aren't going to puncture him, but his name is Bibendum, and it's Latin? And also, isn't Nunc est bibendum now for drinking? Doesn't that mean his name is drinking in English? That's not a very good car mascot type name, in my opinion. All right, let's keep going. How about Scooby-Doo? You know Shaggy? You know what his real name is? You should. This one isn't that hard of trivia. But again, here's some trivia for you. Norville Rogers. That's right. Shaggy's real name is Norville Rogers. How about this one? I did not know this one. I do not like this one. You know the board game Operation, where you shove stuff into the patient, or put like I don't know what you call like tweezers into a patient, and you rip shit out of them. He's not known as just the patient. In the instruction booklet, he has a name, and that name is Cavity Sam, which is the worst name reveal on this episode, hands down. Also, who's reading the instruction booklet on Operation? It's just tweezers. His nose lights up when you hit the sides. That's it. It's not a hard game. Who's reading the instructions? That's why I've never known up until this point that his name is Cavity Sam, which, again, terrible name. How about this one? The Monopoly Man. Did you know that his name is Rich Uncle Pennybags? Yeah, a lot of people did. But how about the Monopoly? How about the Monopoly? How about the Monopoly Policeman? He's on the board, too. He's got a full name. It's Officer Edgar Mallory. Why did we have to name that? He's just a guy on like the little cards and on the board. Or how about the guy in the jail picture on the Monopoly board? His name is Jake the Jailbird. Who and why are we spending time naming these things? How about Mr. Clean? A 1962 promotion asked for suggestions to give Mr. Clean a first name. The winner? Veritably Clean. Nope, that's just dumb. Should not have been the winner. That's a stupid name. How about the comic book guy from The Simpsons? In 2005, they actually gave him a line where he introduced himself as Jeff Albertson. I should have known that one, but I think I'm kind of far behind on it. The Simpsons just always happens. It's always going to be there. Hopefully it'll never stop airing, but I don't know who's watching it. I don't anybody that tunes into The Simpsons every week. So I didn't know that one. Alrighty, hold on one second. Because it's Muppets time. On the Muppets, there was a character named Guy Smiley. He's a game show host on the show. Well, his real name is Bernie Liederkrantz. Bernie Liederkrantz is Guy Smiley's real name. That's got to be brought up. There's got to be a Muppets fan somewhere in your life. Bring that one up. Or bring this one up. You know Mr. Snuffleupagus from Sesame Street? He has a first name. And it's Aloysius? Probably Aloysius. Aloysius Snuffleupagus. Aloysius. Aloysius Snuffleupagus. What about Cookie Monster? You know he has a first name? It's Sid. That's true. I looked it up because I didn't believe it. It's true. All right. How about Charlie Brown? I've got two for you from Charlie Brown. First, you know the teacher, the trumpet, the muted trumpet teacher? She's got a name. It's Miss Othmar. Othmar. Miss Othmar. What about Peppermint Patty? Well, she has a real name. It's Patricia Reichart. What the F? Yep, Patricia Reichart. Let's move over to SNL for a quick second. The church lady. You know the church lady, Dana Carvey? She has a real name. It's Enid Strict. And a lot of people I told this to this week went, yeah, I knew that. Really? I didn't know that. Okay, sure. How about Curious George? You know the man in the yellow hat? He's got a full name. People know this one too. I did not know this one. His name is Ted Shackelford. Ted Shackelford. No idea. How about Mr. Peanut? Yep. Bartholomew Richard Fitzgerald Smith. He's got a hyphenated last name. Fitzgerald Smith. Bartholomew Richard Fitzgerald Smith. What about the evil queen from Disney? Yep, Grimhilda. Jughead from Archie comic books. His real name is Forsyth P. Jones III. Forsyth P. Jones III. Woody from Toy Story. His last name, Woody Pride. Casper the Friendly Ghost. His full name, Casper McFadden. MacGyver. You know, the Richard Dean Anderson TV show? His real name, Angus MacGyver. B.A. Baracus, Mr. T from the A-Team. The B.A. stands for Bosco Albert Baracus. Turtle from Entourage. His real name, Salvatore Asante. You know what? That just seems right. He's that much of a, it's a douche-sounding name. I'm sorry if your name's Salvatore and or Asante, but I'm just saying it sounds a lot like a turtle name from Entourage. Bull Shannon from Night Court. His first name, Nostradamus Shannon. Boomhauer from King of the Hill. Boomhauer from King of the Hill. His real name, Jeffrey Dexter Boomhauer III. Hopefully, at least one of these caught you by surprise, if not multiple ones. And I'm sure you're going, no, that's not true. Again, I checked these because a lot of these I was like, Angus MacGyver, bullshit. And I'd look it up and it'd be Angus MacGyver. Yeah, there you go. Some real names from fake people. All right, those are fun. But here's some more useless facts that are true to shut people up at dinner time. You got a Beatles fan that you're going to go visit or talk to or related to? Well, you got the Beatles anthology coming out, tomorrow? So here's a timely one for you to bring up at the dinner table. Hey, did you know that all four Beatles contracted gonorrhea? That's right. Earlier in their careers, all four Beatles contracted gonorrhea while performing in Hamburg, Germany. Here's a fun fact for you. Let it be. How about this one? Star Wars fans in your family? This is another one where I went, bullshit. Not true. Looked it up and went, okay, I thought I knew everything, but apparently I don't. I consider myself a huge Star Wars fan. By the way, if any Paramaniacs have vintage, like 70s, 80s Star Wars toys that you want to get rid of, the answer is yes, I want them. Send them all to me. Every ship, every action figure, duplicates, do not care. I want it all. One day I will be out of this apartment and have a place of my own, and I guarantee you I want a full Star Wars room. So please, if that's just, I'm just throwing that out there. But how about a Star Wars fact for you? In an early draft of The Empire Strikes Back, the character Yoda was originally named Buffy. Yoda was originally named Buffy. I was convinced that this was internet nonsense. And boy, howdy, was I proven wrong. All right, how about this next one from James Cameron's The Abyss? You remember that movie, The Abyss? There's a scene in the movie that I was convinced 100% was fake, was just Hollywood magic. It's where a rat is breathing in the red oxygenated fluid. So it's underneath, it's in a tank, in fluid, underwater, basically, under this red oxygenated fluid, and it's breathing. It turns out that stuff is real. And I went, no, it isn't. And I looked it up. That oxygenated breathing fluid is real. And 2 human men actually tested it. And even though they could breathe the red fluid like air, the fluid in their lungs made it seem like they were drowning the entire time and said it was torturous and horrific. How is that not talked about more? There is real oxygenated breathing fluid that you could use, but you will feel like you're drowning the entire time, even though you're breathing perfectly fine. That's fucked up. That's messed up. All right, how about this? We all know how long a year is, right? 365 days. We can all agree on that one, right? I don't care what the Earth is plummeting through, what black hole it's plummeting through. It's 365 days. Well, not all the time. There was one day that was way longer than 365 days. That year was 46 BCE. How long was it, Kurt? Great. I'm glad you asked me that. It was 445 days long. And that's because Roman Emperor Julius Caesar reformed the calendar in 46 BCE. And it caused widespread confusion. He realigned how the calendar was to adhere to the solar year, but in order to make this transition happen, 46 BCE included 15 months instead of 12. He was trying to simplify the calendar, and because the calendar was a mix of like agriculture and lunar and religious calculations and all kinds of nonsense and harvest festivals, like all this kind of stuff, they explained to him that he needed to adjust the year to the sun's course by making it consist of 365 days, abolishing the intercalary month, and adding one day every fourth year, leap year, or leap day. So correcting this would begin at the next calends of January, they said. He inserted 2 other months between those of November and December. Hence, the year was 15 months, including that intercalary month, which belonged to that year according to the former custom. So these additional intercalary or I think it's calorie months, are called Mercedinius. There we go. It's like Mercedes, but with onius at the end. Mercedinius, and it didn't last long, but it did cause the so-called Year of Confusion. After 46 BCE, Rome was back to a calendar that looks a lot like the calendar that we have today. Did you know this? Did anybody else know this? Because I didn't know. Maybe I'm dumb. I mean, it's fine if you guys heard every one of these so far and went, yeah, everybody knows this. Well, I didn't. So maybe this episode should be called, random facts for you to talk about around the Thanksgiving table, or random facts to find out if Kurt's dumb. And either way, that's fine. Hold on. All right, had to take a quick pee break real quick. So, yeah, you know what? If that's the case, if it's just that everybody already knew these except for me, you can always just use that at Thanksgiving table and be like, did you guys know, I listen to this podcast named Paranormal Almanac. This guy, Kurt, can't really say a lot of words, a lot of towns and countries, and apparently the word Mercedianus or whatever the hell that thing was that I just said. But do you know that he didn't know any of these facts? And then you can relay these facts, and then your family would be like, he didn't know that? What an idiot. Yeah, well, there you go. I'm here to help is what I'm saying. All righty. This next one I never heard about. Maybe you hadn't either. Did you know that in the 1950s, there was a proposal that the United States Postal Service would deliver missile mail? And it's not the first country to come up with it. The United States, not the first country to come up with it. Germany started the idea first as early as 1810. There was a German called Heinrich von Kleist, and he suggested it as a way to get mail to great distances immediately. Then Great Britain thought about doing it, and they even experimented with rocket mail. And they actually even sold stamps made by the British Rocket Syndicate. But in the U.S., by about the mid-1930s, the idea of mail delivery via rockets was kind of really thrown about. People were really starting to figure it out. But the first successful deliveries didn't take place until 1936. Sending letters between New York and New Jersey proved that missile mail would be a bad idea. Until after World War II, in the 1950s, military and the U.S. Postal Service, then called the Post Office Department, teamed up for missile mail. Postmaster General Arthur E. Summerfield oversaw the only successful delivery of a missile mail while aboard the USS Barbaro, a submarine, on June 8th, 1959. from more than 100 miles off the coast of Florida. The unarmed, nuclear-capable Regulus missile carried roughly 3,000 pieces of mail. It arrived in Mayport, Florida, roughly 22 minutes later, and helped achieve Summerfield's assertion that before man reaches the moon, mail will be delivered within hours from New York to California, to England, to India, or to Australia by guided missiles. Sadly, it was determined that missile mail was far too expensive to implement for regular mail. So this first delivery on June 8th, 1959, was ultimately the last one. Now that you couldn't have known. That's a cool fact, right? All right, how about this next fact? You ever been to Hall of Presidents, either Disneyland or Disney World? Well, apparently they got the Lincoln wrong. What am I talking about? Well, in 2021, C-SPAN did a survey of presidential historians to determine which presidents were the most popular. The answer, Abraham Lincoln. No surprise there. The result was the same in 2000, 2009, and 2017. But because Lincoln was assassinated in 1865, it is unlikely that anyone knew what his speaking voice really sounded like. But according to journalist Horace White, who was around the time of Lincoln, Lincoln had a thin tenor or falsetto voice, almost as high-pitched as a boatswain's whistle. Others described his voice as shrill, and in February of 1860, a story in the New York Herald reported that it had a frequency tendency to dwindle into a shrill and unpleasant sound. How about that? You think about one of the great speakers in American history, stop the end of the Civil War kind of guy. He actually had a really high voice like this. That's insane to me. All righty, let's go on to another one. In 18th century Scotland, Margaret Dixon was hanged. Her name was Margaret Maggie Dixon. She was a Scottish woman in the 1720s. She was detained on charges of murdering her baby, but she claimed, nope, the child was stillborn. Doesn't matter. Boom, they caught her burying the child. They put her on trial. She was convicted and sentenced to perish by hanging on September 2nd, 1724. Her execution took place at the Grassmarket area of Edinburgh, where crowds gathered round to watch her be hanged. Afterwards, they cut her body down, put it in a coffin, transported it to Musselburgh, which was the fishing town where she lived, for internment. But on the way to Musselburgh, when the driver resumed his trip after stopping at the Sheephide Pub in Duddingston for lunch, he heard weird noises coming from inside her coffin. When he opened up the coffin, he was stunned to discover she was very much alive. So they go, well, I don't know, what do we do? She was hanged for her crimes. So he brings her back. They talk about it for a while, and they decide she cannot be hanged twice for the same offense. The judges of the High Court agreed. She was set free and allowed to live. She became known as Half-Hanged Maggie, went on to live another 60 years and had several children. She is the only known half-hanged person in England. But because of her, they changed the law to read, the punishment now states to be hanged until proven dead. Didn't know that one. There you go. Here's a fun fact to talk about while someone's passing you the stuffing. How about this one? You know Agatha Christie? Everybody knows who Agatha Christie is. I don't have to explain that part, right? Did you know that Agatha Christie was an avid surfer? Yeah, it's true. In 1922, her and her then-husband Archie embarked on a world tour for his job. First stop was South Africa, where she learned how to surf while lying down. Other parts of the tour, Australia and New Zealand, she surfed. Then they arrived in Hawaii, Waikiki Beach. and she said she couldn't get enough of it. She recounted in her autobiography, nothing like it. Nothing like that rushing through the water at what seems to you a speed of about 200 miles an hour, all the way in from the far distance raft until you arrive, gently slowing down on the beach and foundered amongst the soft flowing waves. It is one of the most perfect physical pleasures that I have known. Sounds like Archie wasn't that good in bed. You know what I'm saying? Do I have a da-dump bump? Oh, I do. There you go. Yeah, Agatha Christie, avid surfer. Come on, that's got to be worth something to somebody at some family table. How about this next one? From about the end of the 19th century, this one comes to us in the South Pacific, where religious cults interpreted the arrival of supply goods for colonial or military personnel as divine blessings. And because of this, there is a cult, or was, and it doesn't really say if they still happen. We'll find out together. There was a cult of John Frum, who is a mythic American who is supposed to arrive on the island of Tanna to bring prosperity. Islanders celebrate John Frum Day on February 15th when they perform an entire ritual around the religious figure. Writer Paul Raphael explains, on this holiest of day, devotees will descend upon the village of Lamacara from all over the island to honor a ghostly American messiah, John Frum. John promised he'll bring plane loads and shiploads of cargo to us from America if we pray to him. Okay. Apparently, John Frum doesn't exist. And it doesn't really say if it keeps going on. How about this next one? You know coffee? Obviously, you know coffee. So when they bring out coffee around the Thanksgiving table, this is when you bring this one up. You know, at the end, everybody's sleepy, all full on tryptophan, and they're getting some coffee. This is when you bring this one up. Hey, did you know that while coffee was consumed by the Muslim world around the 13th century, it took another several hundred years before Christian Europeans began to drink it? Oh, why is that, Grandma? Well, let me tell you. In the 17th century, some Catholic clergy began to label the brew as, quote, the bitter invention of Satan, and called for a ban against it until Pope Clement VIII tasted it, loved it, and gave it the stamp of approval. That's why Christian Europeans started really drinking coffee in the 17th century, because of Pope Clement VIII. All right, sure, cool. Here's one from my home state, and I'd actually heard it. It was called the Windsor Hum. No one could figure out for years on the U.S.-Canadian border where this mysterious hum would be coming from. It got so bad at times that it would actually rattle windows and causes houses to shake in Windsor, Ontario, hence the name Windsor Hum. For years, people suspected a bunch of different things. They thought it was probably coming from a plant on Michigan's Zug Island. Well, it wasn't until COVID-19 of 2020 that this nearly 10-year-long mystery was finally solved, when the steel plant was shut down and announced it was scaling back its operations at the Great Lake facilities. The noise disappeared. Turns out the steel plant's overworked blast furnaces were causing the hum the entire time. So that one actually has a resolution to it. That one's cool. If you're from Michigan, that's cool. If you're not, I don't know if it's cool or not, but there you go. There's another fact for you. How about this one? A local folk remedy in Boho, Ireland, was to place soil from the local church under a pillow while you slept to cure infections. And it was a widespread, local remedy, folk remedy. But it wasn't until 2018 when a microbiologist found that the churchyard soil contained a previously unknown strain of streptomyces, which is the beginnings of antibiotics, basically. So it had a key ingredient to antibiotics, and that's local remedy. Yeah, it was real. There was a reason why it would cure infections. That's cool. I don't care where you're from. How about this one? A woman's skull was unearthed in David Attenborough's back garden. It actually solved a 130-year-old mystery. Fun fact, David Attenborough was not a time-traveling suspect. I went down that rabbit hole, so you don't have to. How about this one? The Great Whiskey Fire of Dublin. It actually claimed 13 people's lives in 1875. None of the people perished as a result of smoke inhalation or burns. All right, so for this one, you want to wait until they bring out the whiskey. After the coffee, after everything else, if they're all just like, fed up with Thanksgiving and talking to family, and they crack open a whiskey bottle, you bring this one up. Hey, you know that Great Whiskey Fire of Dublin in 1875 that killed 13 people? Did you know that nobody perished as a result of smoke inhalation or burns? And all 13 people died of alcohol poisoning by drinking the whiskey flowing through the streets. Come on. Come on. How about this one? In medieval times, corpses of sick people were used as catapult ammunition. I was like, there's no possible way that they were like trebucheting or whatever, launching people from catapults, to other armies. Yep, they were corpses of sick people, and it actually got people sick. It actually worked. Well, yeah, you're raining down corpses of sick people. That's gonna work. How about this one? Her name was Elizabeth Betty Robinson. She was only 16 when she won a gold medal for track and field at the Amsterdam Olympics in 1928. As the first woman to win the 100-meter dash, she was greeted by a parade in Chicago. She returned back home looking forward to the next game in 1932. But in 1931, she was in a plane crash that left her with a broken arm, a cracked hip, and a broken leg that required a pin to hold it together. She was told she would never walk, or she would walk with a limp for the rest of her life. But she had no chance of ever running again. The plane that went down, her cousin Will was piloting it. She was believed to be dead. So this guy that found her body from the plane crash was like, oh, I found a dead body, and took her to an undertaker in the trunk of his car. That's when the undertaker noticed she's still breathing. They gave her that medical care. Like I said, she was told she'd never run again. Well, they couldn't tell her that because she began walking, then running. Then over the months and years that followed, she kept training and pushing herself until the 1936 Olympics. Even though she was no longer able to crouch and start like other runners in the 100-meter dash, she ran. She made the team for the 4x100, whatever that means, 4x100 meter relay for the 1936 Olympics in Berlin, and took home a gold medal. So, again, woman died, came back to life, did something cool, just like that Maggie lady, that half-hanged Maggie. Her daughter said her first gold medal was not important to her as her 1936 gold medal. The first was easier. The second, she had to work her tail off to get back from injury. I don't know. I thought that one was kind of cool. I had to throw that in there. That's a good-spirited human kind of story. I don't know. I just threw it in there. I liked it. All right, this next one. I don't know how you're going to bring this one up at the dinner table, but bonus points if you can. And again, tell me what kind of reaction you get from this one. 19th century poet and writer Victor Hugo, known for his works such as The Hunchback of Notre Dame and Les Miserables, was a fucking player. He was married to Adele Foucher for over 40 years, but he was known to have as many as 200 lovers, some of whom he financially supported for years through his books and writings and shit. He reportedly coded his sexual escapades in his diary using a system of abbreviations for what each woman did or offered. This guy's pervy. All right, he died in 1885. And when he died, brothels throughout the city of Paris closed so that the sex workers could attend his service. One source said the women had draped their genitalia in black crepe as a mark of respect at his funeral. You know what? I wanted to look this up beforehand, and I completely forgot. What the hell does Victor Hugo look like? I get that he was rich. Oh, yeah, no, he's not a good-looking dude. He had to have been rich because, my God. Born in 1802, died in 1885 at the age of 83, and he's still banging like 200 women? Wow. You go, Playboy. Never in my wildest dreams will I ever expect women to drape their genitalia in black crepe as a mark of respect at my funeral. But this guy did it. Go Hunchback of Notre Dame, you guys, man. There you go. All right, how about this one? Again, I don't know how you're going to bring that one up at dinner. That's your part of this episode. Mine is to tell you these. Yours is to figure out how to bring it up. How about this one? Greek philosopher Pythagoras. You know, Pythagoras theorem. You all know it. Well, Pythagoras was a vegetarian, although he did not eat beans. He also forbade his followers. Hold on, I got to clear my throat for a second. There we go. He also forbade his followers from eating beans as well. Why? Well, a lot of people thought it was because they caused internal distress. The answer is not that. The answer is beliefs in the ancient world were that beans were associated with Hades and contained reincarnated souls of the dead. The fuck? So yeah, he would not eat beans because he thought they contained the reincarnated souls of the dead. And this just in, like literally before I wanted to start recording this episode, Pythagorean theorem found on a clay tablet 1,000 years older than Pythagoras. It predates Pythagoras by over 1,000 years. I don't have to read the whole article to you. That's it. That's the headline. They actually found it on a clay tablet that's 1,000 years older than his own theorem. So besides not eating beans because he thought they contained the souls of the dead, he also just stole a theorem. You can't just steal theorems, people. Alrighty, finally, we're getting to the rapid-fire, useless facts time of the episode. Here we go. A group of ladybugs is called a loveliness. All right, cool. The CIA has a secretive museum that is off limits to the public. Kurt here, I want to go to that museum. Chainsaws were first invented for childbirth. They were developed in Scotland in the 18th century to help aid and speed up the process of widening the pubic cartilage and the removal of disease-laden bone during childbirth. That's gross. Bring that up at dinner table. Australia is wider than the moon. That's right. The moon is 3,400 kilometers in diameter, while Australia's diameter from east to west is almost 4,000 kilometers. So, Australia is wider than the moon. Venus is the only planet to spin clockwise. It travels around the sun once every 225 Earth days, but it rotates clockwise once every 243 days. Nutmeg is a hallucinogen. There we go. Something at your dinner table right now at Thanksgiving has to have nutmeg in it. I don't know if it's pumpkin pie, whatever. Nutmeg is a hallucinogen. The spice contains, I'm going to screw this up, myristicin. Myristicin, which is a natural compound that has mind-altering effects if ingested in large doses. All right, so it's in large doses. You can't eat the whole pumpkin pie and be like, I got to hallucinate. I can't handle being around my family. I got to trip balls. You're going to have to go to the kitchen, open up the pantry, find a nutmeg, and just start like doing the cinnamon challenge, but with nutmeg until you hallucinate. Good luck with that. M&Ms are named after the businessmen who created them. What do the M's stand for? Forrest Mars and Bruce Murray. The real name for a hashtag is an octothorpe. The octo refers to the 8 points in the symbol, but according to the Webster Dictionary, the Thorpe part is a mystery. Ketchup was once sold as medicine. That's right, the condiment was prescribed and sold to people suffering from an indigestion back in 1834. A jiffy, like when someone says, I'll be back in a jiffy is an actual unit of time. It is 1/100th of a second. People used to say prunes instead of cheese when getting their photos taken. That's right, in the 1840s, a cheesy grin was seen as childish, So a London photographer told people to say prunes to keep their mouths tight. Queen Elizabeth II, had a stand-in to make sure that the sun wouldn't get in her eyes. Her name was Ella Slack. She was similar height to the late queen. She would rehearse big events beforehand to make sure everything would be comfortable for the monarch so she wouldn't get sun in her eyes. However, she was not allowed to sit on the throne, and she had to squat above it. That's weird. The Eiffel Tower was originally intended for Barcelona, but Barcelona thought it was too ugly, so Gustave Eiffel pitched it to Paris. When it was pitched, French critics weren't too thrilled either, even though now it's, the place where everybody goes to fall in love, I guess. I don't know. I've never been there. The shortest commercial flight in the world takes place in Scotland. Regional airline Loganair flies between the islands of Westray and Papa Westray. The journey is just 1.7 miles and takes 90 seconds. The blob of toothpaste on a toothbrush has a name. It's called a nurdle. And there was once a lawsuit over which toothpaste company had the right to portray it. All right. The Beatles song, A Day in the Life, has a frequency only dogs can hear, and it's at the end of the song. I have tried throughout the years, I've known this one for a while, I've tried throughout the years to see if any dog I had or was around cared at all about the end of the day of life, and none of them have popped up and looked at the speakers, nothing. But that's true. You share your birthday with around 19 million people, so you aren't special. That's what I want you to, if you take one thing away from this episode, is that you're not special. There's 19 million other people that I could be wishing happy birthday to instead of you. The Pope can't be an organ donor. That's right. All Pope's bodies belong to the Vatican when they die, which means no organ donation is allowed. Why? What the fuck? No idea. Let's keep moving. A rainbow on Venus is called a glory. Okay. On Venus, they appear as a series of colored concentric rings. There is no number before 1,000 that contains the letter A when spelled out. Yep. I went through them. Not all of them. I stopped after a while, but I was like, oh shit, I think they're right. Wind is actually silent. What we hear is the wind blowing against an object. The Atlantic Ocean is saltier than the Pacific Ocean. If you Google the word askew, the entire page will tilt. I tested it. It's real. I then asked a coworker to do it, and they went, okay, I Googled it. I'm like, is the page crooked? And they went, yeah, the page is crooked. So I sent it to another coworker, and he goes, why are you sending this to me? And I said, is the page crooked? And he went, yeah, the page is crooked. So there you go. Maybe you can get somebody to do it, and then they'll go, the page is crooked. Rats have the ability to laugh, and they actually do so when tickled. I gotta tickle a rat now. Apple pie isn't American at all. Next time you call something American as apple pie, you need to know this fact. Apples are native to Asia, and the first recorded recipe for apple pie was actually written in England. There you go. That should ruffle some feathers at Thanksgiving. And finally, last but not least, in this completely useless, not really paranormal, although there's some weird shit in here, it's kind of paranormal, episode of Paranormal Almanac. I hope you guys have a fantastic Thanksgiving or holiday of whatever kind that you're celebrating now, this week, in the future, nearby, whenever. I hope you guys had fun with this episode. I hope you enjoy this type of episode. Like I said, this is a request. People actually requested it, me to do another one of these since I did it last year. And I said, yeah, that was fun. I'll do those again. There's not, let's have some fun. But finally, for this episode of Paranormal Almanac, a group of bunnies is called a fluffle. That's right. Once again, I'm your host, Kurt Sambig. This has been another edition of Paranormal Almanac. You guys have a great Thanksgiving. Have a great holiday. Whenever you're listening to it, have a great day. I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. Oh,